Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Casey. My name is Casey Samson. Next to me is Billy Samson, one of our top producers here at the Casey Samson Team. Coffee with Casey is where we take an hour. It's funny. Pam in our meeting yesterday said that we should be a reality TV show on our Tuesday afternoon meetings because there's so many things going on. So much money at stake and listings going in and out and under contract, and that it really should be a reality show. But this is an opportunity for us to, when the dust is settled, sit down and talk about some of the most important parts of real estate, whether you're a real estate professional that tunes in, whether you're a future home seller, or whether you're trying to sell your house right now. Or a buyer involved in the real estate. This is a good opportunity to catch up on market conditions, what's going on. Today we're going to talk about how, and in my opinion, this should really be a Wall Street Journal article, but how is the West Coast trends helping East Coast sellers? This is really a dynamic shift in the paradigm of how, that's a pretty big word.
Yeah, nice.
Paradigm of how real estate is sold. And it is extremely exciting and fun. And I'll tell you where we've learned about this, how we keep up with the upper trends, how we utilize that in today's market, and how in March we made our sellers over $400,000. Now, if you don't think it's exciting to save somebody like $20,000 or $25,000, try having a month where you save sellers $400,000. I do want to, don't let me forget, I do want to talk about the commissions because, we do 20 listing appointments maybe a month, and it's coming up a lot more. And I want to make sure that we put this to bed once and for all. And we don't have any further discussion on it. But unfortunately, it comes up a lot in our meetings, and I'm going to go ahead and put that to bed today. I want to talk about defending the home. So Billy and I have a house. A buyer wants, or any one of our top producers and I have a house. Somebody wants to buy that house. They have a concern about the house. We need to meet the concern, and then we need to defend the house. And I'm going to define what that means to defend a house or defend our pricing and how that's done. But it is a key element of how we save our people $400,000 a month. We're going to talk about it's very difficult right now because the inventory is low. In talking with our agents, they have buyers. They're struggling to get in houses. There are multiple contracts. So we'll talk about how you win a contract. We are the listing agents on many multiple contracts. So we'll tell you how that kind of works. All right. And then I'm going to talk about, say what?
I was going to say, it should be a pretty jam-packed episode then. That's a lot of
I know.
A lot of information.
It's so funny because
we just came in and sat down. What are we going to talk about?
One of my buddies, he comes into Bonaratti's where we're going to have some dinner, and he goes, "You just talk too long. That's just too long. Coffee with Casey is too long." I'm like, "Well, what part of what I just said can I cut out?" Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's going to be on YouTube. If it gets too long, just leave, go away, and then come back and watch it on YouTube.
Maybe we should hit him with chapters.
I was thinking about that, but
so you could skip the chapter.
So market conditions, West Coast stuff, defending the home, buying in a seller's market, and some disturbing promises that are being made by some realtors. And I think it brings into question a lot of things. So let's go with the market. So we are better than 2018. We're not as good as 2017. Inventory is still low in most markets. And how do I know inventory is low? You need to assess a market and say, if there are 10 houses on the market, how many out of those 10 are under contract? So in Vienna, with a 5-mile radius of Vienna, 61% of the homes under $1 million are under contract. Now, anything over 33% is kind of a seller's market. So we're at 61%. That's a huge number. When you take into account some sellers are just way overpriced. Billy and I went in and we were talking about a listing. We priced the listing out. It's worth $1.65 million. We told the seller, do not go over $1.65 million. I drove down the street. I saw it was up with another realtor. A little disappointed. It's a pretty nice house, but it's on for $1.9 million. So $1.9 million isn't even in the ballpark of consideration. So, there is that element of
Part of the market.
of the realtors that want listings and are willing to list at any price, and sellers that overprice their homes. That causes the days on market to be in the, let's take Vienna, over $1 million. 119 days is the average days on market. In a good market, 119 days on the market is the average days on market for those homes. So there are a lot of people that overprice homes. So when I see 60, I basically see that as full employment. If you're priced correctly, you're in good condition, you're marketed properly, then it just goes under contract. And it tells me that's multiple contract scenario time. So the houses over $1 million, only 31% are under contract. The houses in the Ashburn area, 66% are under contract. So Ashburn, off the charts hot. Fairfax Station, where people think it's a little slow, 69% are under contract, off the charts hot. Haymarket, 57%, which is a little unusual. Haymarket, Ashburn, those outerlying areas are, they're more under contract than normal. But I think the difference between Ashburn and Haymarket is they've got the metros opening up in Ashburn. I think things are really hopping over there right now. So that house is going. But let me just preface this market condition stuff and say that doesn't mean that you can overprice a house. It doesn't mean you can go out without going from a traditional look to a transitional look. It doesn't mean you can just bring your house out in any condition. A perfect example, and I tell all my agents, don't let me get nice. So I priced a house, should be under $700,000. The market doesn't support anything over it. And the lady was so disappointed. She almost cried that she wanted $710. And God dang it, okay, I'll get you $7. We'll put it on at $710, and I could shoot myself in the head for doing that. Every time I do it, it's a mistake. It's been on for 35, 40 days, where it should have sold in the first weekend with multiple contracts if I just followed my own protocol. But instead, as a nice guy, I try and placate somebody, and it blows up in my face. So if I'm not nice sometimes, it's because we need to follow certain protocols. So let me give you an example. So in the Vienna market, over $1 million, our track record, we sold as many houses in the first quarter as the next 4 top producers combined. So our sales were as much as the next 4 big people, and you see them in the newspaper, and there's signs all over the place. So we sold as much as the 4 of those combined. And their average days on market, the average days on market in that is 119. Our average days on market was 13.8. So, I look at I'm a track record guy. If you tell me to do something, I kind of look and see what is your track record, right? So Billy and I are football coaches. We would take advice from Bill McGregor, Tom Verbanek, Pudge Jorman. These are great coaches. They got a lot, they work with. So, they have track record. You have credibility. They have credibility. So, you have to look at the credibility of what an agent is telling you of what is their success. Not that they did $2 million or $2 billion in the past, because what I'm about to talk about takes us from the past
to the future, to the modern day.
To modern day. And you can't do it the East Coast way anymore.
1980 was 1980. This is 2019.
Yeah, it's just, and I have to say, and I'm not crushing the East Coast. I'm just saying that we got to shake it off. So, anyways, here's how this all started. Okay, we do a lot of houses, big houses, and so I watch the markets in LA, which includes the Hollywood market, and I want to see how they present online their $20 million houses, $40 million houses. So I'd follow people like Jade Mills, which is a big, scary. She's like, what do you call those shows? Desperate Housewives?
Yeah.
She's like Desperate Housewives of Beverly Hills. You kind of see that whole show out there. But Jade Mills, the Habib Group, the Oppenheimer Group. So I'll watch them to see what's the newest and latest ways of displaying their trends. So we sit down with Julie and say, Julie, this is the way we want to do it. We get together with our internet people from San Jose, And we design how we want our homes to look. Now, if you go get a pen or paper, get something to write down and type down, and I want you to see the finished product of this. If you go to, and I'll give you a second to get your pencil. That guy's a pretty good shot that guy hit last night. That was exciting. Got pencil? Okay. 11623 VERNA. That's Verna. 11623verna.com. Now that's the way houses look like on the West Coast. You can also go to www.407upham.com. And you can look at that and say, this is the way a $20 million home is displayed on the West Coast. Because guess who's coming west to east? With Amazon, with all the high tech, with the government spending. I mean, we get a lot of West Coast people out here, and they need to see things. They don't read the Sun Gazette. I love the Sun Gazette, by the way. Don't get me wrong on that. But that's not what they're looking for when they're looking for homes. You know, they're online. They're looking for the stuff online.
And also, on top of that, trends move west to east, right?
Yeah.
Technology, innovation moves from the West Coast out here traditionally.
And I don't think that we're adopting that enough,
right,
to be honest with you. So we do. I mean, I'm a big cutting edge guy. I want to make sure that our homes are displayed cooler than anybody. And the reason is this. We noticed that they used to have a 3D model that you could look at, and they still do. And but when we watch people online go to that 3D model, they only stayed for like 10 or 12 seconds, and my guess is they couldn't figure out how to use it, or it was just awkward. So we stopped doing that. And then we did the movies and the videos, and the videos, the steady cams were very nice, but still they only stayed on those for about 12 seconds. So when we came out with these designer pages, these really cool websites, they're interactive websites, and Julie, wouldn't you say they're on there for like 3 or 4 minutes, right? So our average time on those pages, and we can see it. We know how long they stay, how many times they click through, where they click through to. So when we hit that, it's like, okay, we got the secret sauce. The secret sauce is interactive, cool web pages, make houses look like LA and San Francisco and San Jose and all of that stuff. So as far as the online presence is concerned, we have the presentation of the house is now more West Coast. A lot of times, you know, agents will use Zillow, Realtor.com to show their pictures and maybe a video. But that's not like, in my opinion, in just my opinion, that's not a good representation of the house. You've got to have more. You've got to show them more. You've got to get them excited. And I'll tell you why, and we talk about this all the time. The migration for somebody's going to buy your house, the average migration is 30 minutes from the closest employment center. So that's the commute. Well, in DC, it's closer to 40 or 45 minutes because we have a little more traffic here than anywhere else. So 45 minutes is basically acceptable for you to go from Washington, DC, Alexandria, Arlington, Bethesda, or some of the major employment centers to wherever you're going to go. So we need to get that executive or retiring general or admiral, we need them to see it in DC, get in their car, drive all the way out here, and find that house. So it is very important to present. Let me tell you how important the presentation is. I have one photographer, one. And if he's busy, we will wait. I will not get another photographer. A lot of times people will use a service, but you could have any number of photographers that come out there, and some are good and some are not so good. I mean, you can't see it, but on our wall, this is a $1.8 million house. You know, these are very expensive homes, and I'm not going to trust that house where the sellers really have to sell it. I'm not trusting it to any other photographer than one guy. So that's how important these pictures are, that when they come in, they're stunning. And if you look at the evening shots like this, so he takes evening shots sometimes, and the one on Verna, wasn't there a storm coming in or something like that?
Yeah.
I think whoever was with him was like, he had a 20-foot high pole up,
Well, yeah,
and there's a lightning storm coming in. And he's just trying to get a shot.
Well, on this one, I had to hold the pole for him on that one.
Yeah.
On Air Hill 322.
But we got the shot.
So
So
that lightning storm coming in. I think that was, which one was that, Julie? Do you remember? I can't remember. Charles.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. You're right. But anyway, so this house was sold to a West Coast buyer who was in charge of Whole Foods. He's the big executive coming in running Whole Foods on the East Coast. And he bought that house. And where does he find it? Not where he's in Tyson's Corner. He found it in California. And when he went on and searched for it, he fell in love with the house online. Yada, yada, yada. He spent $100,000 on that house, more than the appraised value. We'll talk about that in defending the home in a little while. So first, let's talk about presentation online comes from Hollywood. And you can go see Jade Mills, Habib Group, Oppenheim Group. There's a whole group of them out there that come up with these beautiful websites. Really looks cool. And I think Jade just listed some famous person, everybody know him, for like $37 million. And I noticed that was on some program, and it said Jade Mills was listing. So I do follow her. And so that's the online presence. Now, the other thing about the West Coast, and there's multiple facets of this. There's how do you price it? How do you do contracts? How do you market it? What do they see when they finally get it? So let's go to the marketing side. So I pay a lot of attention to San Jose Mercury News, the people in San Jose, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and Seattle. So these are the high-tech gurus of how we do it. Now, here's where the West Coast is killing us. Not killing us, I mean, we're doing the same thing. What they do is they go out and create audiences and target certain things. Let me give you an example. So we're going to list a house. It is a post and beam house. It is something for a mountain man. It's in Great Falls. It's Mountain Man. And it's $850,000, and it's really cool, but it has a very narrow market of who wants to buy this house. So it's immediately identified this as probably someone from either Pennsylvania or a Midwest kind of hands-on, I'm going to fix everything myself. I mean, the beams and the posts are phenomenal. We can take that and we can go after people that are looking for houses in Northern Virginia that actually live in certain regions of the country. So if I go to Julie and we sit down and say, look, this is going to be somebody that's coming in, Northern Virginia, but they may be coming from the Midwest. They're, hands-on kind of people and blah, blah, blah. You can target these people. And when we boost the ad to that audience, their hit count goes up, what, about 20 times, right, Julie?
Or 20 times, yeah.
So if we organically spit it out to everybody, then it will, let's say, be seen 100 times. And I'm right about this, right? About 100 times. And then, but if we boost it to a certain target market somewhere, then it's thousands. It's thousands. So the job of the realtors is to drive traffic to the house, and you can't drive traffic to the house from print. You need to drive traffic to the house on media that's actually targeting your buyers and going out. And I don't care if you're looking for a gay couple, which we found, and the house was on for 264 days. It was perfect for a gay couple. We targeted gay couples. Bam, sold to a gay couple. 20 days. Huh? Not there's anything wrong with that. What? Yeah. What did you just say? We did, right? In 20 days. And we had a Persian house. They said, it's going to be a Persian buyer. Julie targets Persian buyers. We sold to a Persian couple. That was on for 264 days. We sold that within 20 days. So there's story after story after story about we know who the buyers are. So as we're walking through a house, we're trying to identify who's the buyer of this house. And then you frame it into an audience. You use, Google Ads or geofencing or whatever we're using to go get them and bring them into that house. So East Coast, organic, 100 people see. West Coast, targeted marketing and all that.
Being proactive as a listing agent as opposed to being reactive, just putting it out there and waiting for someone to come. We're going out and bringing people in, right?
Right. So we don't wait. You have to go out there. Now, this is definitely a West Coast thing. So is that what drove our sales from 119 days, which is the average in the market that I'm working, mostly work in, to 13.8 days. Is that what did it? Is it the pricing model, which we'll talk about here in just a second? Is it how it was presented online? I really don't care. You got to do all of it. We coach football. You can't just be good on offense or good at passing or good on defense or good on special teams or good on coaching or good on blocking or good on tackling you have to be good at everything. I mean, you have to be good at everything. So every protocol needs to be put in place. So the West Coast, the presentation online, the targeting, getting them to that site, and then driving them into the home where they can get a good look at it. And that's where we start talking about contracts. Now let's talk about contracts for a second. And this is another West Coast deal. And I more credit this back in 2007, 2008. I credit the banks with this. So everybody wants to buy a foreclosure because they want to get a deal. Well, there are no foreclosures in Northern Virginia until 2007. In 2007, the markets collapsed. The foreclosures went through the roof. Now people really are buying foreclosures. And it's wild, wild west. Well, what happened is, let's say a house is worth $800,000. The bank would put on the market for $600,000. And then everybody would bid on it. Before you know it, let's say the house is worth $700,000. Because foreclosure condition, you got to give it, a discount. So let's say it's worth $700,000. By the time the bidding was over, they were up almost to $800,000. And we started asking ourselves, well, that's market price. So this bidding that went on, and they would not allow escalation clauses. They only allowed highest and best offers. So this highest and best offer stuff came from the banks, really, not from the West Coast. But they use it. We don't. A lot of people out here don't use it. What they use is we overprice houses too much here. We do not. We do not. When I say we, I'm talking about the biblical we of Northern Virginia realtors or East Coast. Somebody said, you ought to watch Naples. Naples is awful. Naples is awful. Those houses sit on the market forever. Great presentations on Fifth Avenue, cool as can be. They don't sell. So anyways, this bidding up, so in California, in San Jose, they'll put it $100,000 less than it's worth and let them bid the living heck out of it. Before you know it, it's way over what the house was worth. Yep. So they only do highest and best from the realtors I talk to. They don't do escalation clauses. And let me explain the difference. If the four of us in this room all wanted to buy a house, we'd all put in bids, and then I would say I'll do $2,000 more than the highest person. So if you guys all bid $750, I'd get it for $750 too. What we do is, and what the bank does and what the West Coast does, is they do not allow the escalation clauses because those are buyer friendly, right? So we do the highest and best, right? So highest and best offers, you could get $750, and this is a true story, $755, $755, $755. A guy comes in and says, I'll give you $2,000 more than everybody else. That's $757. We said no escalation clause. He came back at $790, all cash, no contingencies, no appraisal, no home inspection, no nothing. They wanted the house, so we bid, whatever that is, $35,000 higher. But that's not unique, and it's gone to $100,000 over what the highest offer. And I can't disclose a lot of things yet. There's still March contracts that are settling, so I still have another week or so. But I'm going to give some disclosures about some crazy bidding that has happened. Now, this is entirely now a West Coast thing. They aren't doing highest and best. A lot of people will allow escalation clauses, and I just think that, and here's why. I'll tell you why. Because they don't want to anger the selling agents. Selling agents come in with an escalation clause. They try and beat up the listing agent. They're like, okay, that's fine, that's fine. It's not fine. We're not going to take it. And, it's our job to defend the seller and get them the highest price. So, no, we're not taking an escalation clause. You can take your contract back, and if you want to walk. But I have multiple contracts here. So the highest and best bidding is a West Coast deal. We practice it every day. It drives prices up for our clients. And when I say that, we made our clients $400,000 in 1 month. That has something to do with it because we're getting people to bid over what they would normally bid,
Right.
over the thing. So another thing is the contracts, the targeting of the marketing, the presentation of the whole deal. And I'm sorry? Thank you, Julie. I was just getting to style and simplicity. No. I really appreciate that. That shows me you're listening. So the style and simplicity of, and let me explain the 3 major
Pillars.
styles.
Oh, I thought you were going
The
with
styles.
pillars.
I'm going with simplicity.
Sorry, I thought I got you.
So we have a traditional look, and that is 90% of our sellers here in the East Coast. So we're just traditional people. And then you have a transitional look, which is taking you from the traditional to the transitional to the modern look. So you have 3 things: traditional, transitional, and modern. Okay. So on the West Coast, most homes are already set up in a transitional look, and they're trying to make it look more modern. So they're really going to modern. And they have stagers come in and all of that. And I don't go that far, but we're not trying to get to modern. Our buyers are looking for, on the East Coast, are looking for a transitional look. They can live with that. That is something that an East Coast buyer can live with, a West Coast buyer can live with. And all we're trying to do is get to a place where everybody can live with this house. A lot of times we'll have a husband love a house and a wife does not, or a wife loves a house and a husband does not. What we're trying to do is appeal to both. We're trying to appeal to East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, South. We're trying to appeal to everybody, every age group, every gender. So when we say we're trying to neutralize a house, we're trying to remove anything. Because let me tell you how people search for houses today. Billy he does it on his phone. You know, boom, boom, boom. You guys are trying to rent a place? Boom, 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 boom. Now what they're doing is you're eliminating houses.
Right.
Dated. So we need to make them stop. Don't do that. Just when you see it, you're going to go, oh, that looks nice. Oh, yeah. So, you know, we did that big seminar at the Expo Center, and I visualized walking into a house and identifying, like we always do, 20 items right in front of my site that all date a house, whether it's shams or curtains or whatever you call them, whether it's shears, whether it's a lot of furniture, whether it's older rugs, whether it's plants, whether it's, you know, hangings, knit bags, you know, all of that stuff. Colors. And you're kind of looking at it and you're going, dated. Well, when you remove all of that, and a perfect example, Pat had a house and the people were nice enough, and it turns out that the husband liked the traditional look and the wife liked the transitional look. So when I came in and I said, this is really traditional, we need to do some work, and it had been on the market for a year. So they were nice enough, the guy was brave enough to say, just do what you guys want to do. And the wife and us took over. We turned it in and had it sold in the first weekend. Now that had been on the market for a year. And we sold it in the first weekend. That was one of Pat's deals. And, you know, was it pricing? Was it condition? Was it marketing? Was it everything?
All of it.
It's all of it. It's all of it. So it's not one thing, it's everything. So can we put a house on and just leave it as a traditional house? Dated. The only way you can accommodate that is by pricing it low. And a lot of people don't want to do that. In fact, let me give you a perfect example when we talk about how we made $400,000 for clients in March. Let me give you just one example of how this style and simplicity works. We went into a house that was $1.385 million, and the seller wanted $1.45 million. And it was built in 2002, but it had the right school district, it had the right neighborhood, it had everything. Everything was going for it. So like, fine, if you want that number, you need to de-age your house. You need to go from a 2002 house to 2010 house, right? So how do you do that, you know? Well, all this gold, just remember this, gold is old, light is right, okay? So gold has got to go. So we took all the gold hardware, and they were handy people. They did it themselves. They put in all brushed nickel hinges and doorknobs and everything. All that gold plumbing fixtures you have, they got to go. So we got rid of all the gold plumbing fixtures, bathrooms, kitchens, everything. The lighting was old. So we took all the lighting and we got the cool looking orbs or cages or whatever that was. And when you walked in, it's 2010. It wasn't 2002, it was 2010. We sold in the first weekend 14425 or something like that. So that seller made $50,000. Now the total money spent to de-age that house was $10,000, and they made like $60,000. So when I talk about style and simplicity of these houses, if you have the $10,000, fix the dang house up. If you have an Oriental rug, get the Oriental rug out, get a Wayfair $150 rug in there, and run with it. And you've got to make it, you got to stop looking traditional and start looking transitional. So where does that come from? Morgan. Morgan, one of our agents, my daughter, is really big on style and all of that stuff. So a lot of homework, and she got me into this, and before you know it, she was right. Now I walk into houses, I look totally different. And let me just stop for a second. So our team has Julie and Michelle, which is our support back office gurus that handles all the social media and all that stuff.
Bill.
We have 7 top producing agents. Each agent, whether it's Pam or Shayna or Morgan or Kelly or Colby or Pat or Billy, every agent brings something to the table. I mean, Billy's a financial guy. He's a brain guy. He's really good with numbers and negotiating contracts. So Pat has the patience of Job. Morgan is very style. So is Kelly. Kelly is practical. Morgan is all about style. Kelly's about being very practical. Pam is just one of the best long-term agents you're ever going to have. And Shane is also that premier buyer at 32 years old, starting to have families and things. So each one of these, when I say it's a Casey Samson team, it's not Casey Samson. It literally is Julie, and it literally is Michelle, and it literally is Billy and Kelly and Morgan. And every one of these agents, it's Pat. It's all of the agents that work on this team. So it truly is a team effort. And that's why I think the smaller teams are better. So another thing they do out there is that, is that there are more teams. And I think you need to have a small team. I could not handle all this business, so I need to have Billy focus on these 3 houses, Pat focus on those 3 houses, Morgan, and so on. So if every one of our top producing agents can do the attention to detail to every property, then every property gets the attention it deserves. And I think that, but I don't want to have somebody under my name that I don't trust and know and all that stuff. So I think that 7 is a perfect manageable number. I look at some agents that have $50, $60 million worth of properties that are listed, not under contract, just sitting there available. And I don't know how they handle them. I mean, I couldn't do that. So I think that attention to detail is extremely important. So I'm going to go to the last thing, and that is the pricing, where on the West Coast they do price it $100,000 less, and in many cases, not all cases, but many cases. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. But pricing is the key, the most important thing ever. Now, this is East Coast, Casey, that we have documents that will validate a price of a house, because we don't want to leave any money on the table, and the buyer doesn't want to pay more than it's worth. So what is the number one thing we need to do? And that is establish what is the true value. And I mean, what are the appraisal comparables? What are the age and size within a 1 mile radius? What is the threshold? If you're looking for a $900,000 house, what are age? If we compare ourselves to the $800,000 to $1 million homes, compare us to them. What are we worth if you compare me to these? And I have these models that Billy and I have developed over the last couple years that are so damn accurate, it's scary. So we could tell you really where you're slotted. And then let's say that the perfect example is the 710 that I gave the example of before. You got to stay under that 700,000. That's the neighborhood. The neighborhood is under 700. It's not over 700. So sure enough, I put it as 710, and I've regretted every day.
Just above the fish.
Just above the fish. So anybody that's looking 700 and below never saw that house, and it was because I was trying to be a nice guy. What we normally do is, and you are the beneficiary of this, on Blair.
Right. Yep.
So we had a house on Blair, and I think it was on the market for quite a while.
Yeah, I think it was about a year, and they wanted over 1.25, and they had it listed at over 1.25. So all the fish under 1.25, which is a major threshold there, 1.2, 1.3, but 1.25 is a big deal. It's a quarter of $2 million.
Yep.
So a lot of people have their thresholds set at 1.25. So I don't want to disclose too much since it's still under contract, but the buyers for that home, it's under contract right now. The buyers for that home had their threshold set right there at 1.25.
We won't disclose the value or the price or what we got for it.
It was listed for 1.25, but they had their threshold set at 1.25. And so for the last year, they hadn't seen it.
And they were looking.
Set up perfect for their family. They needed a main level bedroom, a main level suite, and it was perfect for them, and they never saw it because...
And they were living right around the corner.
They were living right around the corner. So that's a perfect example of, just, put it underneath the threshold, and especially 1.25. If you go over 1.25, you lose a ton of people.
Right.
Put it at 1.25. That's not saying that's what we're going to get, but you're going to get a lot of people up to the bat.
So the people finally saw it.
To fight for it.
Finally saw it.
And push it over that value.
And said, we said, you got to make us an offer we can't refuse if you want us not to do the open house, and they did, and it was done. So anyways, the sellers got more than they had hoped for. It took one weekend. I don't even think we made it through the weekend. It was one day. So I would just say that the important thing here is making sure you stay under a critical threshold. And to be honest with you, when somebody wants to go over a threshold or they want to,
and also to touch back on that property, that was a huge West Coast, going from the East Coast to the West Coast, traditional look to the transitional look. And it didn't cost much. It didn't cost much, right?
Yeah.
They took away some clutter. They removed a couple pieces of furniture. They brought in one of their interior designers that they had worked with.
Which we use now.
They took out a couple rugs, took down a couple paintings. They brought in a new table. They brought in a new rug.
Well, you and I walked in and we said,
oh
my God, what did you do in this living room? This is so different. And nothing. Were those new chairs? No, those are the same old chairs. Was that a new table? No, same table. They put a new rug in and a new wall hanging, and you and I were like, wow.
Yeah, and instead of having their old oak breakfast table, they brought in a nice, sleek-looking glass table.
Big, heavy wood is a traditional look. Sleek, thin, clean, linear lines is the
right,
trend.
And instead of drawing your eyes to the clutter and the old traditional look, it brought all of that out.
Yeah.
And then instead of looking at that stuff, your eye gets drawn to their kitchen, which is great. And all of the great things about that home outside with the great lot, that nice flat lot in Vienna, that back screened-in porch right there. So, your eye can go out into the backyard as opposed to being stuck right here.
So what was amazing was that the home was put on the market at the wrong price without touching the interior of the house, and it sat for a year. And then you just come in and say, look, this is the actual value of the house. So let's stay under the threshold and clean it up and then do the target marketing to go to the West Coast stuff. And Julie creates a beautiful web page. Right. And before you know it,
and it's all, like you've been saying, it's all for, 3, 4, 5 pieces of it. Put it in the correct condition, take out the old stuff. And they didn't spend any money. They spent
$1,500 bucks.
$1,500.
It was 15 hours. Our stager charges $95 an hour.
They took out some pieces of furniture. They brought in a new rug, a new painting, and a new table. That's all they put in. And they brought everything out.
And they staged the upstairs
bedroom.
And that looked great.
And so, that's the first piece. The second piece is put it in the correct price. Yeah. Put it at that threshold. Jack up the price, which we got a great return over our list price for our sellers. Package it up. Take our photos. Put it in that ad. Put it in our the way we present it on our webpage. Boost that out to everyone. And then
we'll disclose how much. We'll disclose how much they got over the list price. When is it going to settlement?
May 13th, I believe.
Yeah, that's a long time. I'll probably disclose it before then. But anyways,
Yeah,
for a $1,500
great-
investment and doing it right, they got a ton of money
Great success
back.
story for them.
Huge ton of money back. So these stories go on and on. So let's talk really quick about establishing that value. And I want to I don't know what time we're at.
15, 16.
We're now like 20 minutes past where Johnny says I'm talking too much. So I got to finish this up. Because this is really important. We established the value, so I know what the house is worth. But this is like the homicide hunter. So my favorite show is Joe Kenda. He solved 387 murders in Colorado Springs. So the show starts with somebody getting murdered. And then the rest of the show is Joe trying to solve the murder and prove who did it. And he has an aha moment where he goes, bingo, to the camera, and he's got his guy, and now he's going to prove how they did it. So pricing a house is just like solving these murders. We go through tests, and we look at this, and we look at that, and some take us down the wrong road, and some take us down the right road. So finally, we have that aha moment. Aha, this house really is worth $1.699 million. This is worth $1.7 million. I can prove it 4 different ways. I can prove that house worth $1.7 million. This house right here, that house was appraised for $1.675 million, but I could prove 3 different ways why it was worth $1.8 million. So we got 1,775, which is $100,000 over the price, because we could defend the house, defend the price. So we have these documents that simply show a summary of how we arrive at the price, what the comps are, what comps we use, what the defining characteristics of the house are, what the major benefits of the house are. So when somebody comes in, they say, and Billy and I had this experience, we're at $1.35 million. We send them that document. They offered $1.3 million on a $1.35. We send them the document. They up their offer to $1.35 million. $50,000, we didn't counter. The other one went from 1.425 to 1.475, settled yesterday. So that house is the exact same house as a new home 2 blocks away. They got 1.425. We got 1.475. What's the difference? We defended our price. Their offer came in at 1.425, and they were not going to budge. But when I sent them the validation of why we were worth what we were worth, they upped their offer $50,000. Now my seller said counter them back at 1.45. And that's what we were, but before we did that, I don't want to counter. I don't want to counter anybody. I just want to say, look, I'm going to send you a document that proves our price. I'm going to defend the value of this house. And then we'll see what you guys do. So they came back and they upped their offer $50,000, 25 over what we were going to counter back at. So
and also one more thing, one more piece that you're forgetting here is it's very valuable to the appraiser when appraisals come in. It's very valuable to the buying agent whenever we're negotiating a contract. It's also very valuable once we get to that home inspection. Once you want to release that home inspection. You guys had a home that was 1.25. You guys negotiated on a price, and then they wanted more money on the home inspection. So no, you already got that on the price.
They wanted $50,000 on a home inspection.
And it said, no, you already got it on the price.
And
it's
they settled for some lawn furniture and a Weber grill.
Yeah, exactly. So it's immensely valuable on, first, whenever we go into our listing agreement, getting on the same page with the seller, saying, here's all of our comps, throwing out the bad comps, keeping the good comps. If a seller has a comp that they want us to measure themselves
we can do that too.
We can do that. We can age it. We can size it. Then once we get our price, our list price, we put it underneath a threshold. We bring in our buyers. We can negotiate with the buyers. Once we get to an appraisal,
give them that.
So
appraiser wants to give you, and I had an appraiser go give me an appraiser $100,000 over more over what the house was worth. All he wanted was give me some comps and give me some things, and I'll come.
And we work with appraisers all the time. We love appraisers, but they are they need to value a price for a bank.
They're doing 4 or 5.
But they need to value a price for a bank. Essentially, they're not trying. they're not selling the home. That's what.
And we help them.
Right.
But I think the most important thing is, and this is what sellers really have to understand, is you don't want to pay twice. So let's say your home is in a certain condition, and a customary price is let's just say $900,000. and the seller, the buyer comes in and he pays $860 because it is not in good condition. So then they come back and say, well, we got $20,000 we need on the home inspection. Well, we come back and say, if it was in customary condition, it's worth $900. So you got a $40,000 discount. We're not giving you another $20,000 on top of that. So instead of saying, hey, they want $20,000, we got to fix this stuff, we have to come back and defend that with our pricing model and say, you already got that discount, right? So, you know, Billy and I like to win. We do, I mean, our football teams, we love to win. And it also is the same thing with real estate. Everything needs to be perfect. And that pricing document is the centerpiece of the success of how everyone else sells a house in 119 days and how we sold our houses, average 1.1 million at 13.8 days. So this defending the house is just the start of setting the price correctly and being able to defend it. Now, let's say we have people that come in and they start bidding on the value of a house. We don't show them anything. We don't do anything because I'm not going to show them a document that says we're worth 1.3 million if they're bidding 1.4 million.
Right.
You know, we're out, you know. Let them bid.
Right.
So in the bidding situations, we're out. But so help me, if the house is on for a little while and somebody tries to cut us on price, we're going to approve the price and get that back up, or a home inspector wants to.
Right. And just like you were saying with the home inspection, it's the same thing whenever we have to defend our homes whenever we're active.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever someone comes in and says, oh, yeah, we love the house. It's in great condition, but the lot's not very good. Well, yeah, guess what? That's right here. We took off for the lot. We took off $25,000 for the lot. If it had a great lot,
right,
it would be 1 point, yada, yada, yada. But look at all the great things of this home. It has this school district. It's in the kitchen is this.
New kitchen.
$40,000 over a customary condition. The master bath is great.
Yeah.
The basement walks out. You're not walking up. It's not a closed-in basement. The flow of this home,
what
the
you're
floor
hearing
plan,
is Billy defending the house.
Right.
So you have to defend the house.
You're in an executive neighborhood. You're not next to $600,000 Ramblers.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff, you're 6 minutes away from Tyson's.
Right.
6 minutes away from the Beltway. 6 minutes away from a Metro stop.
So
yeah, the lot, we already took off of the lot, and here's all the great things.
So I think we've covered how the West Coast hit the East Coast. Would you agree with that, Julie? You got a thumbs up on that? You cool with that, Leslie?
Do you want to touch on the fable of the Amazon specialists? Or do we not have time for that? Because that could get us into a
just very quickly. The disturbing thing is, because I do come up against, there's a thing called HomeLight, and when you put in HomeLight will refer you to 3 or 4 agents, good agents, production agents. And it was a little disturbing when she came in and said, well, one agent told me that they have 8,000 buyers, and they're going to buy my house. And that's just not true. First of all, it's dual agency. If a agent has a buyer and a seller, you represent both parties. So you don't want to do that. So that's out. And the fact is they only sold 6% of their own listings. So that's a false statement that they don't have those buyers. And it's just, to me, it was disturbing that, and then the other agent said, we're the exclusive representative of relocation for Amazon. Well, what does that mean? You only sold 7% of your listings, yourself. And if you did have a buyer for that house, you would be considered a dual agent. Well, Samson Properties doesn't even allow dual agency. We don't allow ourselves to have a buyer and So if a buyer comes to us, Billy can write the contract, but he still represents the seller and not the buyer.
That's
so
called
they're
designated rep.
It's a designated rep, not a dual agent.
Right.
So to me, that kind of was disturbing. I'm like, are you telling me
it's the flavor of the month. Last year we came up against this with the international buyer. We have international buyers. Yeah, that's called the internet. But also, and the way that I would not fight that, but if there is Amazon buyers coming in from the West Coast, do they want to see your East Coast presentation that looks like 1990?
Yeah.
Or do they want to look like what they're accustomed to see out on the West Coast? So I don't want to slam those agents.
Well,
but,
I don't either.
It's kind of like,
I think the job of the agent is to expose the house to the maximum amount of market in the best way and let the market decide what the price is worth and have it put at a reasonable price. Let the market decide what it's going to be worth. So, we'll get... one thing I do want to touch on, though, there's a lot of people that are out there and they may be looking to rent, okay? And I had one of my football coaches, Tyler, was out looking to rent a property, and he couldn't get a property. He just couldn't get one. And I said, look, Tyler, go directly to the listing agent, because there's not a lot of money in rental for realtors in the rentals. So go directly to the listing agent, and so they get both sides of the commission, and they're the decision maker basically. So, and I just got an email, not less than a week after he had sent that to me, that he just got a property. It worked like a charm. So if you are out and you are looking to rent, just go directly to the listing agent. And
well, that's kind of touches on whenever we sat down 10 minutes before we came on air, we said, what do we want to talk about? And right now we're in a seller's market.
Yeah.
And so, the way you buy in a seller's market, and if you're renting or buying, it's, kind of the same thing. Not really the same thing, but like you said, going straight to the listing agent on a rental is kind of the same thing with what we're seeing right now. In a selling market, what are the two or three things that you can do to make your contract offer look more favorable in a multiple contract situation? So you want to touch on that just real quick?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things. One, we need to analyze multiple contracts all the time. So, the down payments are important. If you're going after a house and you need a VA financing with no money down, it's best that you look for homes that have been on the market for a long time and go find one of those. But if you're trying to compete for a house that's going to get multiple contracts, you're going to get real aggressive on what the price is that you're willing to bid on that house. Remove the contingencies, as many as you can. The home inspection should be for informational purposes only, which means I can void the contract if I want, but I'm not going to nitpick you on all these items. If you're putting down a considerable amount of money and you know the price is what the price is, you can remove the appraisal contingency.
Higher deposit.
Higher deposits, things like that. You can go directly to the listing agent. If you're not working with a realtor, if you're not working with a designated rep, and you've bought 2, 3, 4 houses and you're experienced, you can go directly to the listing agent and go, hey, I want to put in a bid on this house. And give me a point back, by the way. So the listing agent would give you a point back. They wouldn't be able to represent you because we would not represent you. They come through and Billy would write the contract, but he could not represent them. He represents our seller. But they facilitate the deal. So you can go directly to the listing agents if you're not working with a realtor, by the way. Go directly to the listing agent. And if you can, and you love the house, grab that home inspector, get him in that house on Monday morning or Sunday, do a quick hour-long home inspection to make sure that everything is okay, and then remove the entire home inspection contingency. When people do that for us,
yeah, that's like,
and I say that we're going to listen to contracts on Monday at noon, and we're probably not making any decisions till later on that night, and they say, I'm going to have an inspector in there on Monday morning, and by noon, I'm removing my home inspection contingency. You win the contract. Or at least we would go to that person and say, hey, this is the highest bid. They have a home inspection. You do not. Can you match their bid? If you match their bid, we'll give you the deal. They'll match the bid. So sneak that home inspector in, not sneak him, but say, hey, I want to bring a home inspector.
Set up another viewing. And
so for 1 hour, he goes in, he validates the house, and away you go. So we are at 10:30, and we got check, 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 and recheck. Right? Did I miss anything? Did I thank everybody on our team yet? All right. So that's another day of coffee with Casey. I'm going to go hit some golf balls for the next couple days, so you can call Billy if you need anything from our team. I haven't had a day off since this spring, so I'm going to go hit some balls with Danny. But the new spring has begun. So now here we go. We're starting after Easter. You have a whole new launch. So I call that kind of pre-spring, and this is post-spring. The delineation is Easter. So we will see how the next phase of the spring works out. And then we're on to summer and fall. And, if people are thinking about selling, then you do it now.
Jump in. Those are the numbers.
You're at 61%, 66%, 69% of the homes are all under contract. So we are getting people to put them on now, because in 2015 and 2016, when people came back from the beach, the market was gone. I mean, we had good springs, and then the market was gone. So You know, there are times when there are great springs, but what happens is everybody throws their house on the market, the buyers go to the beach and don't come back. Before you know, you have inventory problems, and now that 60 goes to a 30, and now you have problems. So if you're thinking about selling your house, give us a buzz, give Billy a buzz. Casey at CaseySamson.com will get you directly to me. Billy at CaseySamson.com will get him to him. Just put in the first name of whoever you know on my team. Kelly, Morgan, Pam, Shayna, Pat, and Colby, all at Colby at CaseySamson.com, Pat at CaseySamson.com. You have any other questions, let me know. Other than that, thank you, Billy, for sitting in with me. I appreciate you getting up in the morning. Julie, as always.
Caps.
Huh?
Leslie, thank you, and go Caps, baby.
Go Caps. Hey,
let's get it.
stay classy out there in Northern Virginia. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.